Happy Sunday. Happy Sunday. How are you guys? I am Prophetess Patrice Wilson, and I'm just so excited to be here today to talk about this video. So today, I want to talk a little bit about your bloodline. I know a lot of times different churches have mentioned it, but we don't see a whole extensive study a lot unless you go to a particular church. So I'm not going to do a whole extensive teaching on it. I just want to touch on a little bit just to get your mind going into thinking about it. What is in your bloodline? So past couple of years I've heard churches mention it. You know how you can break stuff off your bloodline, and we talk about generational curses and generational blessings. So I was just thinking about this morning. I was just doing some, reading and researching on it, and just, reading in the Bible about family lineage and all of that. So what is bloodline? What is that? What do we mean when we say bloodline? So all the bloodline is your family lineage, your ancestors over many generations, and the characteristics they are believed to have inherited from those ancestors. So basically what your bloodline is, it's a whole family lineage. It's your parents, your grandparents, and your great grandparents. And when you talk about your bloodline, you want to know, what has been passed down. What things have you seen that your mom does and your grandmother does? What are some of those characteristics or those generational curses that people talk about that you need to, to address? So in my earlier teaching in some of the churches that I attended, they talked about, there are some things, known as generational curses, some things that you have to speak against and cast down and denounce and pull down some of those characteristics that will hinder your family from getting all that you need from God. So let's just talk about it. So some of the things that I've seen, and I don't really mean to put all my business out here, but I have to be transparent so you'll know what I'm talking about. So some of the characteristics are some of the things I've seen in my bloodline, and I've witnessed it, from my parents. Well, not my dad because he died early, but my mom, my grandma, just doing research, my mom's side and my dad's side. Some of the things I've seen in my bloodline that, I need to address, and I have addressed. I've seen some things like anger. Anger is in my bloodline. Poverty is in my bloodline. Diabetes is in my bloodline. High blood pressure is in my bloodline. So these are some of the things I've seen that carries on from one generation to the next. And if you notice, the doctors will ask you when you go to the doctor, have you witnessed some of these things? Put check yes by some of these things if you had them, and who else had them? Did your mom have it? Did your grandma, who else in your family? So even they know there's a connection to some of these things. So when I say what's in your bloodline, what have you seen passed down from generation to generation? So I've just listed some of the things I've seen in mine: anger, poverty, high blood pressure, diabetes. So what I've learned and what God teaches us is when you are in God, you are given the authority by God through Jesus Christ to break these things off. And what I mean is you can speak to those things, and you can, with the authority that you have in Christ, you can cast those things down and you can pull those things down so that they won't pass, like to your kids. So, you have to be spiritual to understand what I'm saying. And I don't mean to be spooky, but for those of you who are kingdom citizens, it makes sense. You understand what I'm saying. So when you see these things in your bloodline, these characteristics that you saw in your mom and you saw in your grandma, God teaches us that it stops with you. You don't have to have these things to go on to your kids. They don't have to experience, high blood pressure and diabetes and all these things, because what you learn to do in your maturity in God, you learn to denounce these things. You learn to cast these things down. You learn how to speak the goodness of God over your life and the power of God over your life to make sure these things stop with your generation, and they don't keep going on and on. So I just want to do this video to just get you going, get your mind going. What have you seen in your bloodline? Some things have you seen the generation before you do, some things that you can stop with the authority that God has given you. And I remember, when I was younger, I used to, complain about some of the things I used to see, like, why is this happening and why would I see that? But our Bishop Smith told us, stop complaining about our families and start celebrating, because what God has done, He has put us in our particular families to be a blessing and to kill off a lot of those things that we see manifesting in our bloodline, those generational curses that you see, people, in poverty and not having goals and not having good credit, not knowing how to balance a check, but just a lot of those things that you see still manifesting. There's some families who, the women never get married, they're all are single, and they don't believe in, getting married. So you have to pay attention to all those things that you see. What is in your bloodline? What are some of the things that you notice, that you see that your parents have done, your grandparents have done, that'll hinder you or keep you from experiencing all that God has for you? Make sure you pay attention to those things, and make sure that you learn how to walk in your authority and cast those things down and kill them off so they won't pass on to your kids. Poverty is a big thing. We want to make sure we cut that off. We want to pay our bills on time. We want to get our credit straight, because you don't want your kids to struggle like you had to struggle. So I know it was not a whole big extensive teaching, but I just want to touch a little bit on it, so you can be aware what's in your bloodline. What things have you seen, that you are doing that you saw your parents or grandparents do? Those are the things that you may want to start paying attention to, and go ahead and start praying about it and walking in your spiritual authority and casting those things down and denouncing those things so it won't pass on to your kids, so they won't have to struggle like you did. All right. Well, again, I'm Prophetess Patrice Wilson, and if you would just like, comment, and share this video. It was great talking to you guys today, and you all have a blessed day. Thank you so much for tuning in.